After the 7-month long hiatus, ironically, I'm back with the 7th episode of my favorite audio products. And this one's going to be interesting and slightly controversial as well because I'm going to talk about a pair of TWS under 3000 that I feel is very overhyped, a flagship pair of TWS that I'm definitely not going to recommend to audiophiles, and finally, the best IEM under 2K for Indian audiophiles out there. Alright, so let's begin this episode, and if you're watching me for the first time, I'm Arshad. This is Track and Take English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. So first things first, I'm going to start off by talking about the AirPods Pro 3. So this has come very recently to us for review, and I've been testing these out for a bit. The case, of course, has changed up slightly, so much so that one of my favorite features of the AirPods Pro 2 case, the physical pairing button, is not there anymore. But you do have a touch sensitive button right below the LED itself. So you just need to double tap that and it'll put the buds into pairing mode. Also, one more thing I must definitely mention is that now while the white of the AirPods has always been iconic, I feel like we need more colors now because, a black would have been a great option, but considering, Apple didn't do a black in iPhone 17 Pro Max, expecting a black AirPods is a bit too much, I'm guessing. As for the rest of the elements on the case itself, you get the 2 holes for the lanyard loop. You also get a Type-C port at the bottom. You get a speaker as well. Now with this speaker, of course, you can use Find My to sort of detect if you've placed them somewhere or, misplaced them somewhere. Now to talk about that buds design, Apple has changed the shape of the bud design, and it has obviously gone through rigorous research to sort of get to this shape. And I find them very comfortable. I have nothing to complain about per se. And you also do get IP57 rating, if you're sweating during workouts, that shouldn't be a problem. Now, another thing that Apple has changed is the silicone tips themselves. They're not just mere silicone tips anymore. Let me just open them and show it to you guys for a second. Now, if you look at it, they are actually on the inside. Now there is foam. It's not an entirely foam tip. It's still a silicone on the outside. But what happens with this, foam on the inside is that you do get a better seal. So by default, the passive noise isolation itself becomes extremely good. And along with the improved ANC, the ANC performance on the AirPods Pro 3 are possibly the best I have experienced on any pair of truly wireless in-ear buds. And the transparency mode has also been improved. It's eerily good. In fact, I couldn't tell the difference between what I was hearing in real life and with the earbuds in my ear with the transparency mode on. I mean, a lot of buds tend to have this robotic sort of metallic sound, which is not a case with the AirPods Pro 3. They sound extremely natural. And once again, you do get the spatial audio feature, which is something that a lot of people care about. I'm not a big fan of spatial audio. But if you want to experience good spatial audio tuning or simulated spatial audio tuning through stereo speakers, then I would say that these are probably the best ones out there in the market right now. Now, another area where Apple has actually made improvements is to the mic quality themselves. So right now, you're listening to me through these, mics that I've attached to my shirt. But now we'll switch the audio to the mics on the AirPods Pro 3 themselves, and you can actually tell that they're pretty improved compared to previous generation AirPods, and probably they are the best mics on a pair of truly wireless earbuds in the market right now. Now, I also tested out the battery life. So Apple claims 8 hours of battery life. I got 7 hours, 47 minutes of battery life with ANC on and at 70% volume at all times. So that's, again, very close to Apple's numbers. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't test out the new live translation feature because it doesn't work with Hindi, and the currently supported languages, none of them speak that here. So, but I'm guessing it's really good because a lot of international YouTubers said that it's good, and I trust them. But I know that a lot of you are probably watching this video to know, how do they sound? Well, they sound a whole lot bassier this year. The sub bass has been lifted a fair bit, and it's good quality bass, no doubt. And if you listen to a lot of dance music with rumble in the sound, for example, Skrillex's rumble itself, it actually does sound very good. And if you like that kind of music, you will appreciate the kind of bass lift that Apple has done with the sub bass. But the problem with this bass lift is that it creates a considerable auditory masking that you can sense, or essentially what I mean to say is that the bass drowns out the mids, and which was particularly evident in one of my favorite Drake songs, One Dance. So when I wanted Drake's voice to actually come to the fore, they were sitting very comfortably in the background, unfortunately. While the quality of the mids are pretty good themselves and the tonality is pretty good, I still feel like, the auditory masking was not that great in my experience. I mean, I prefer something that is a little more clean, a little more balanced overall. In fact, the AirPods Pro 2 and the Sennheiser Momentum Force actually do it much better. Now, I did find a way to fix it. That's through EQing, but it's not a custom EQ because unfortunately, Apple doesn't give you the option to customize the EQ settings. So you can't can't change the frequency response according to what you want. But it does have a few preset EQs within the settings app itself, and from there you can actually change it to reduce bass. And once I switched to the reduce bass EQ, the bass sort of became more manageable, if you ask me, and Drake's voice also came to the fore. Now, while EQing could fix that a little bit, no amount of EQing can actually fix another problem with the AirPods Pro 3 now that I'm facing, is that it does sound slightly sibilant. And I'm somebody who's actually, not that sensitive to treble peaks. But in the same song, when the female voice, Kyla, starts singing, and you can hear that it can get grating once in a while. By the way, I did see Dave 2D's review, and he actually drew out a frequency curve after testing it. And I completely agree with that frequency curve. It did, it is something that represents what I heard as well. See, the AirPods Pro 3 doesn't sound bad by any means, because you do get more detailed retrieval compared to the Pro 2 now. And the THD is also pretty low, which means that it sounds very, very clean, like a flagship TWS should. But the sound signature curve itself is something that I'm not really a fan of. So I would say if you're an audiophile looking for a balanced sound, then stay away from the AirPods Pro 3, and there are better TWS options in the market with better sound as well. But if you're using an iPhone, and if you like the connected Apple ecosystem, if you want the best ANC, best transparency mode, best spatial audio, best mics in the business, then you really cannot go wrong with the AirPods Pro 3. See, if you ask me, yes, Apple has upgraded the AirPods Pro 3 by quite a bit to make sense for even the AirPods Pro 2 users to upgrade. But if audio quality is your priority, then maybe, just maybe, you should skip this. Alright, next up, I'm really excited to talk about these. The Moondrop Space Travel 2. And you know what? They've become extremely popular on the internet, so much so that people are saying this is like the end game of TWS buds for 3,000 rupees. Like, you should just buy this and forget about any other brand out there. I completely disagree. Because frankly, I feel like they're overhyped, and the Realme Buds Air 7 is actually a better option. I would have never figured that out until I spoke to my friend TechWorld Ultimate on Twitter, where he told me, okay, listen, you need to try out the Realme Buds Air 7. And once I did, I found out the truth about it. Now, before I get to the sound, there are a bunch of other things that we need to discuss. Firstly, just take a look at this case. It's got that open buds case kind of design, so it's going to attract a lot of dust. This one's just way better. And more importantly, there is a high chance that you are going to lose these earbuds very easily if they fall off. But let's just do a quick yank test to find out how strong the magnets are. Maybe the Realme Buds Air 7 has bad magnets, but still you have a case and a lid that can sort of, close it. No, this is not a good design for a case, Moondrop. Not at all. Now, if you look at the other features, like for example, the ANC, the transparency, the dual connection feature, or even the low latency mode, every other feature is much better on the Realme Buds Air 7 compared to the Moondrop Space Travel 2. And you know what? The Moondrop app that I downloaded and tried out, oh wow, that's an absolute joke. Honestly, in comparison, the design, the UI, the way you can use the Realme Link app, it's just, again, way, way better. Now, mics on the Realme Buds Air 7 also do sound much better than the Moondrop Space Travel 2. I'm not saying it. You guys take a listen to it for yourself.
Now, this is how the microphones on the Moondrop Space Travel 2 sound. In the same environment, we are outside, there are birds chirping in the background. There is also some ambient noise of construction going around behind me. So this is a microphone test of the Realme Buds Air 7. These earbuds are being used to record the audio on this video right now.
Now let's compare the sound, and the first advantage that Realme has is that it supports the LHDC version 5 codec as opposed to Moondrop, which only does SBC and AAC. Now, even if that is not too much of a problem, I still prefer Realme's tuning over Moondrop's. Now, the Space Travel 2 is tuned to the virtual diffuse sound field target that Moondrop has made themselves, and it is very close to the Harman target curve. So the frequency curve itself is something that we know about, and it has been tuned really, really well. It's a more balanced kind of frequency where the bass, the mids, and the treble, all of them have their own importance and their own, prominence. None of the frequencies take the lead in the mix, so to say. And the Realme, on the other hand, is a more mild U-shaped sound. And the reason why I pick Realme over Moondrop is purely for the technicalities that it offers. Now, a lot of you must be like, no, I prefer a balanced sound over a U-shaped sound. But if the balanced sound sounds boring, then wouldn't you pick the slightly U-shaped sound instead? And I'll tell you why the Realme Buds Air 7 actually sounds better, because in the same song, for example, Farewell for Now by Greta Van Fleet, which is a song that I tested on both, I actually felt the music or enjoyed the music, or the emotion felt better on the Buds Air 7 compared to the Moondrop Space Travel 2, which, tends to sound a little lifeless, if you ask me. Because with the Buds S7, you get more energy in the mids, there is a lot more extension to the bass, and even the hi-hats or the cymbals that are there, you can hear them with the right amount of impact. Unfortunately, there is a treble roll-off very early with the Moondrop Space Travel 2 that I am not necessarily a fan of. Also, if you listen to it very clearly, both have very good imaging, but the tonality of the instruments or how the instruments should generally sound is slightly better with the Realme, which is what I felt compared to Moondrop. This is a budget pair of TWS sound, whereas Realme tries to sound more expensive. That's the easiest way I can put it. Honestly, I'll say this again, I don't see the hype around the Moondrop Space Travel 2. It's a below average product overall with an above average sound. In comparison, the Realme Buds S7 is a good product with good sound. You see what I'm saying, right? Alright, let's now talk about another great IEM under 2000 rupees. We've got a lot of options these days, and this is the Tangzu Weiner SG2 cross headphone zone collaboration. Of course, Tangzu Weiner is already available, but this headphone zone collaboration is new this across, so I wanted to test them out anyway. They do come in a 3.5mm out and a Type-C out variant, so you can pick whichever one you want. Now, with the headphone zone variant, the design is pretty cool actually, if you ask me. It's very India coded with this blue color and the kind of motif that is there on the shells themselves. But don't expect like great quality on the shells because they're plastic shells and you'll have to baby them. Otherwise, if they like drop and stuff, they have a chance of breaking also, by the way. Now, a lot of people online told me that the Jade edition is better because apparently for around a similar price, you actually get a case inside the box, and that's like a nice green color version. So if you want, you can pick that up too. Apart from that, you do get a bunch of ear tips inside the box, so you can find the right one for your ears. The fit has to be very good for you to get good passive isolation. And the mics also do sound really great. In fact, take a listen to it for yourself and let me know what you guys think.
Now, this is a microphone test of the Tangzu Weiner SG2 that were made in collaboration with Headphone Zone.
Alright, now to talk about the sound on these, and these actually have two 10mm dynamic drivers inside each housing, and trust me, that is half the battle won for me at least, because I am a big fan of single DD IEMs in this price range. I'm not a fan of crossover with multiple drivers. But more importantly, the Tangzu Weiner SG2 actually has one of the most unique sound signatures that I've ever tested. Honestly, I've not heard, it's unlike anything that I've heard till now, if you ask me. Because take a look at this graph provided by Headphone Zone, you will notice that there is a strong emphasis in the upper mids, which means that the upper mids has been pulled a lot. What this means is that two of my favorite singers in the album Metro Indino, basically Vishal Mishra and Arijit Singh, sound absolutely fabulous on these. You can sense the weight of their vocals. There's a lot of gravitas to the sound, and I mean, I was really impressed with the mid-range performance, especially the upper mid-range performance. Trust me, if you're a fan of Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, or any Indian language film music, then I think that this one should be in your kitty for sure. But it's not like it's without problems, because the upper mid-range has been picked up, but there's like a steep fall to the lower mids, and this causes a bit of a hollow sound sometimes, and there's like a break that you can hear and you're like, oh, okay, now I'm not listening to something very expensive. This feels like a decidedly 2000 rupee IEM. Sometimes this happens depending on what song you're listening to. Also, while the bass is not bad, it's not very refined, so I wouldn't say that these are suited for electronic dance music, for sure. As for the rest of the technicalities, the detail and resolution, I would say are better on the Moondrop Chew 2, because I still feel like they are my gold standard. Those are the ones that I generally pick if I want a pair of good sounding IEMs under 2000 rupees. And as for the soundstage, it's not very wide. It's alright at best, but the instrument separation is really good. It sounds clean generally, and it's just very mids focused, which is something that a lot of people care about, and I know that a lot of Indians will definitely love that sound signature. So yeah, strong recommendation from me for a pair of good IEMs under 2000 rupees. That should be the Tangzu Weiner SG2. Alright, so that's it from me for this specific video. These are the products that I wanted to talk about and highlight, and I was just waiting for some good products to come about so that I can make this video once again. Also, I've been experimenting a little bit with my own audiophile journey, so I picked up the KNRU7 DAC, which is a 1-bit DAC. Apparently it's supposed to be really good, but I'm trying to understand how I can push it to its limits. And I also picked up the Clinical Daybreak, Clinical's very own pair of IEMs that he's actually selling in India also now. It's got the new Meta sound signature, which is supposed to be really good, and it does sound good. If you guys want to know more about those kind of products, also let me know, because I generally know that most people don't care about very expensive IEMs, and the audience for that is low, and I have to be very truthful about that. But if you have interest in that, let me know. I'll probably give you guys a comment or write a comment below so that you can get my perspective on that. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.